Ladies, gentlemen, fellow Kryptonians out there, welcome to my Superman and Lois Season 1 finale. I was about to say episode, but like, it's the finale. We're here, and what a journey it's been. It's really weird for me to contemplate now that Superman and Lois might not be on in a break and stuff, but I always knew it would come back. But now, that's it. That's it until Season 2, and what a way to kind of finish it off. I don't think it was the absolute most immaculate finale, but I feel like it did so well in so many areas, and especially that nice, oh man, heartbreaking but fulfilling and wholesome ending. That got me. So I don't want to waste any more time. I just want to get into all the details of this fast-paced finale. But as always, guys, go ahead and like this video if you do go on to enjoy it, of course, and make sure you subscribe to make sure you never miss out on a video. And if you haven't seen it already, I do cover Stargirl on this channel, and I should already have a Stargirl review up for episode 2, so check that out as well. But this episode picked up right at the end of the last episode. Obviously, that was quite a devastating ending to the last episode, especially seeing Elizabeth Tulloch's acting chops come out like that, acting as Lois, a mother. Absolutely, I can't even begin to fathom. I can only imagine. I don't have kids, so I can only imagine what it's like to not know if they're safe, and also have a super-powered Superman of a husband. It really set off the tone and the stakes of the episode if that wasn't obvious enough as it was with the end of last episode. We also had the Cushing family arrive at that car crash where Jordan got taken from. Obviously, Jonathan was still there. We had General Lane still there, a bit injured, and also the music in this moment. I don't know if too many people would pay attention to that, but here it was really building up. It was quite intense, actually. And we also even had that moment from Sarah, and I wondered how much they were going to dive into this in the finale, but they actually didn't, and I'm half not surprised by that and half surprised, because I was wondering if they were going to play with all the whole Lana Lang, Clark Kent of the Smallville days, just paralleling the modern day show with Jordan and Lana Lang's daughter. But no, didn't really happen, but at least it's still being teased along. Then we cut to Jordan, or should I say kind of Zeta Rho. At this point, he's telling the Eradicator to obtain the forces to resurrect the Defense Council. And I loved in that moment as well when he says, "A new son of Kal-El," and then like the heat vision went down and you saw Jordan there just kind of come out, and then he went back into Zeta Rho mode. Will help him do it. And the reason why I was a fan of that is because the actor in this moment had to obviously like pretend to be someone, then showed the Jordan character, then go back into Zeta Rho. So pretty decent scene. And is it just me, or is Leslie Lar this season, it's always felt like she's just been in cuffs or something, but I did love that particular scene where the tenacity of Lois really came out. I mean, what have you got to lose in this moment? And she was just screaming at Leslie Lar saying, you know, where is my son? Yeah, it's just like a nice taunting from both sides in terms of how Leslie Lar is just saying, you stand no chance. This is the face I had when I realized that Krypton, there was nothing I could do to save it. But then there's Lois just with the optimism like, we're gonna find him, bitch. And then, of course, it's like I almost totally forgot about the people of Smallville and their protesting. They were still protesting in this moment when we had General Lane return. You know, on top of all of this, it's pretty crazy. We had the kind of ending to the Cushing family debating on leaving or staying in Smallville. In this moment, they're like, we're staying to help. And, you know, so they're obviously, I feel like the Cushing family were just, they were the helping hand of this episode, left, right, and center. You know, you had Carl go in, save that woman from the building. You had them trying to evacuate people. They were just like, yeah, as I always say, they are the Smallville town kind of personified, and that's exactly the role they fill. People were obviously like, what the hell is going on? I thought Edge and the others were apprehended, but that is where, no, they couldn't have been more wrong, because Edge arrives right on cue, and he cooks up a massive blue power of eradication. And I just want to mention, by the way, I've mentioned this loads of times, once again, Superman and Lois, like they have done in several episodes of this season, all while I'm talking about this, is actually technically not chronologically correct in a way, because you also had the scenes cutting to Jordan and Superman. You had the scenes then going to somewhere else, and then you had the scenes going with Edge. It was all of these crazy scenes just compiled together that just, you know, really, it is such a good way to make the audience engrossed in the episode when you have several things going on with several different scenes at once with several different characters. In this moment, we have Steel trying to take out the Eradicator, but unfortunately, there was no luck with that, which is when all of General Lane's, or a large majority of the soldiers, get eradicated, with the Eradicator saying, awaken sleepers, it is time to claim your new throne. And the Kryptonian minds that were put into these soldiers were indeed the Defense Council. Meanwhile, we have Superman running alongside all of this going on, searching and searching everywhere in the world. And I love how arrows cutting to different locations, like London. Like, it's so crazy to think. Like, the city's so close to me, and it's just like, imagining Superman flying over near the Shard, it's just crazy. I loved seeing that. It's something so simple, but, oh, there's London in the Arrowverse. But the one particular moment that was really cool is when he goes to space, he's listening and listening, and it's just, you know, you must be cracking under that pressure to find your son, and he just screams Jordan. And you know, in the comic book, Superman, if he does that, it can literally, yeah, obviously his breath can send you flying back. Imagine the propulsion of his vocal cords and the audio that comes out of that. So that reaches Jordan's ears, which is when Superman bolts over to Jordan and has a hug. That really got me there. And what this kind of place just confused me a bit. Like, what were they doing here? Like, were they just choosing a dramatic looking place, like a pit of a volcano or something? I don't know. But either way, I guess it just added for cool effect, because I don't think anything to do with the resurrection and the terraforming of Earth or whatever they were going to do, perhaps Man of Steel style. I thought initially with this dramatic location it was going to be cooking off here, but it turned out not to be the case. So I guess Zeta-Ro was just chilling there. Another really big thing, and this is a bit of a criticism, only constructive though, I don't know if anyone pays this much attention, but the color grading in this scene was what I want for everything from here on out. Because the suit, for example, usually in all of the Superman and Lois episodes, with the exception of a few scenes like this spread thinly throughout the season. For example, lots of people like to kick up a fuss about Titans having that blue filter, but Superman and Lois, and I'm telling you, when I do my thumbnails, the amount of green filter over it is ridiculous. Now, I don't absolutely detest it or anything, but it doesn't make the suit look as blue and red and all the beautiful Superman colors shine through. It always has such a green hue over it. So for example, in my thumbnails, I have to color balance it out and remove the green to try and make that blue pop more, because it's actually crazy. However, in this scene you're seeing on screen, Superman's suit looks very, very blue. Now, some of you, as I said, really may not notice this. It still does look blue, obviously, with the green filter over it normally. I'm just saying I adored the color grading in this scene, because it just made the colors of the suit look so much better. Whereas I'm sure I'm showing you on screen right now how much green they do actually put over scenes that you may have never realized before. So please just make the Superman colors pop a bit more. But anyway, moving on. This is where obviously Jor-El was popping through, and I was just thinking, not Jor-El, Zeta-Ro, what am I on about? One thing I never would have thought at the beginning of the season that Superman would be going up against his son. Like, I mean, it wasn't a proper face-off, but the fact that he had to, like, receive blows from Jordan, and we even had that line from Zeta-Ro saying, I sacrificed my only son to save our people, and you don't even have the strength to strike yours. You know, like, Clark can't even bring himself to punch Jordan, obviously, even if it's Zeta-Ro, because that's his son. Like, I feel like there's a lot of really cool little aspects and intricacies like that, which I just really appreciated. This got to a point of where it's escalating, so, you know, Zeta-Ro was, like, dragging Superman through the lava and all sorts. General Lane is kind of freaking out, being like, we need to get everybody out of here, evacuation. I also like that scene between Sarah and General Lane, because, you know, it's still showing how he's learned. He might have been a bit more blunt earlier in the season, but he kind of passed her off initially, but then he takes a second look at her, and it's just like, you know, we have the world's finest, and I like that kind of reference as well, looking for him, and, you know, that reassures Sarah. So, you know, lots of growth for General Lane this season, and we will talk a bit more about him later, considering how this episode ends. Now, Superman mentions that Jordan is still in there, but obviously we don't know how much time there is left until his mind is completely eradicated by Zeta-Ro's will and his mind. They discuss that John Henry Irons has some solar weapons left, and of course, who else would go along with him other than Jonathan, the kind of mini John Henry Irons in the making. And also, even little lines like this when General Lane asks Superman, how tough was it to overcome Zod when he was in his mind? And Superman doesn't really shy away from the answer, in how it was literally nearly impossible. And, you know, it's that kind of comic book logic of if that person or anyone didn't have the heart of Superman, or his son, as we later find out, also broke through. But it's just like, no one really other than Superman and maybe a few other people have that strength and heart to, like, eradicate somebody who's already taking over the mind. So it really raises the stakes up even more. It's like Jordan, even though it's kind of predictable, you know, this is just set in to kind of temper the tone of how hard it's going to be for Jordan to do that, and how could he be like it's obvious he's going to do it, but it's still like, man, that acknowledgement is still there. Lois then has the idea of using what Morgan Edge used at the time to access Superman's memories, to try and go deep into Jordan and pluck him out, and just yeah, reinvigorate him to, yeah, just do what Superman did with Zod, and that's completely eradicate him from his own mind. And once again, the Lois and Clark scenes here were just, you know, something to be cherished. I like how they were saying, you know, they're strong like their father, and then he says, you know, like their mother as well. Around about this time in the episode, when we cut to John Henry Irons kind of modifying his hammer with that little pimped out red flaring glow, I was thinking, oh man, like, oh man, is John Henry Irons gonna die this episode? I don't know if anyone had predictions like that as things were unfolding. I was thinking, oh man, are they really gonna kill off Steel? Because I was kind of going down the path of, oh man, this could allow Jonathan in season 2 to take up the mantle of the hammer and maybe Steel, if they're gonna still try and deviate away from him being Superboy and getting his Kryptonian powers. I thought if they're gonna not rush into that and let Jordan be the main Superboy-ish for now, then maybe Jonathan Kent would be picking up Steel's mantle, or like trying to tinker along with that. But I'm glad they didn't do that. I just wanted to spit that random thought out that I had, and share me with your kind of predictions in the comments as you were going throughout this episode, and what did pan out and what didn't pan out. Lois has the technology. She has some weapons as well. The Kilgrave's gun that she then gives to Jonathan. It's like repurposed so he can use it to protect her if anything is to go awry when she's accessing Jordan's mind. We have John Henry Irons saying that the red solar tech combined with the hammer's kinetic force should pierce the Eradicator, and you know, we know that does eventually happen, and I have a few things to say about that. There was a bit like kind of iffy, but yeah, like the plan is in action, and whilst this was happening with the good guys, you also had the bad guys. So Zeta Rho, aka Jordan, aka Zeta Rho really, but with his defense council floating in the air and just kind of like, you know, it's finally time. Let us see our home rise with a new day. They all start flying, and the Eradicator kind of smashes into this cave that was full of XK. Now, they don't make it abundantly crystal clear, but the self-explanatory kind of situation is, I'm guessing it is meant to be Man of Steel terraforming situation, yet you don't need that device that was completely hammering down on Metropolis in the movie, because that more or less is, you know, sorry, should I say the Eradicator is the terraforming device. I think that XK Crystal Cave was meant to, with all that bubbling blue energy that it was trying to amount up to, completely deploy and hopefully terraform, I guess, at least the Smallville vicinity, and then they'll try and keep doing that until it took over the world. That's the only conclusion we can come to, because they were making this place a new Krypton, and the Eradicator combined with an XK cave, because that cave was full of crystals, would, yeah, I guess be a massive cocktail mix to, you know, New Krypton. And is it just me, that barren-looking place where they kind of had that standoff, it's from Crisis on Infinite Earths, but how many times are they going to use this in the shows? I can't actually tell you how many times they revisit this location, and it's not always a problem, because what I'm trying to say is, with an environment like this, you recognize it, and it's in different shows, meaning to be different places. But at least with some other same used locations across shows, they make a bit more of an effort to make it look different. But here I was just like, oh, here's the battle where they had up against the Anti-Monitor, you know, when we had the Spectre there and everything. Maybe you forgot about that, maybe you didn't. But either way, Superman and Steel fly up and arrive at this barren little battlefield, and the soldiers fly into Steel and Superman. The battle ensues, and oh my god, that slow-mo slam down punches from Superman against those military Kryptonians, if you want to call them that, the Defense Council. He was going to town, and it was badass. Steel also manages to knock the crap out of Zeta Rho, which led him to deliver Jordan back to the Kent farm so Lois could do her thing. And of course, Lois attaches the device onto Jordan. Jonathan is on the lookout, and she goes in. She starts seeing fractured kind of memories as she gets deeper and deeper into Zeta Rho's mind. So she sees Edge being shat on by the dickhead Zeta Rho, as we know he's just the most warm father after all. And she keeps going deeper. She sees that younger Edge that we saw from episodes back in 1987. But in this moment, Zeta Rho notices Lois and starts taunting that she will never get to him because he's been buried deep into his subconscious, lost forever. I also got really touched by the Jonathan scenes in this episode, because we had Jonathan obviously talking and reaching out to Jordan when he was in the mindscape. But of course, Jordan wakes up, but it isn't Jordan, it's Zeta Rho. Jonathan does knock him back with the weapon, but of course that doesn't stop him, and he flies up and strangles him. Now, we will revisit this moment in a minute, but there are some issues I do just want to raise, admittedly, because just a matter of fact, I feel like they could have done a little bit better in trying to iron out how Jordan or Zeta Rho couldn't have done something else whilst he was in the mindscape, because through letting him get up and strangle Jonathan like that, there are a couple of things. So first of all, he could just take the device off. Game over. Why didn't he do that? Now, even though I just said that, by the way, future Boba here, when editing this video, I've just become aware that he hasn't even got the device on. So even though while I feel like my criticism still holds with the device, you know, why didn't he take it off? Well, he doesn't even have the device on. So technically speaking, just like when Superman took the device off after that episode when Tal-Rho was trying to invade his mind, why was his mind still being invaded by Lois when the device wasn't actually even on him here? So even though I kind of got it wrong with the device was off, it's kind of more or less the same difference. He hasn't even got it on, so that's just another problem in of itself. I'm not trying to be a dick here, I'm just saying. So like they could have written something in where maybe this scene just didn't happen the way it did, because otherwise it kind of breaks it when you think Zeta-Rho could have just gone like that. I did have another constructive criticism of why wouldn't Zeta-Rho in all of that scene go and just laser Jonathan, Kal-El's son. Now the only defense I have with that is that Zeta-Rho's a bit sadistic. Of course he would take the opportunity to squeeze the life out of Kal-El's son, you know, something like that. So I'm on board with that. It can come across contrived for the plot's sake that he doesn't just heat vision Kal-El's son there and then, but yeah, as I said, it is a believable thing of Zeta-Rho because he seems to really hate the House of El family, so he probably would take his time. Anyway, though, moving onwards, when Lois actually finds Jordan, that was a really well-acted scene. I know I always sing her praises, but Elizabeth Tulloch really got into that. She was, you know, just, I felt like the music in the background, all of it combined together was, it just made for a nice kind of like, you know, climax almost to this part where it's like, you know, fight, you know, you find that strength and fight. And they were just also engrossed in it. When the actors are really in it, and you can tell, because sometimes, sure, we see acting on shows, but sometimes it's not like, it's very surface level, but here you were proper in it because they were in it. But as I said, revisiting that moment when Jonathan was getting strangled, the critiques aside, one thing I loved about that is, and it broke me, because you know Jonathan's like my second favorite / joint favorite character with Lois Lane on the show, and that is when he was saying, I love you, right? Because he knew that his brother would hopefully remember that and that he doesn't blame him for his death. So just as he was about to die, knowing that he said, I love you, that really almost brings a tear to my eye right now. It was, they knew how to get me there. But with all these scenes going on at the same time, Lois broke through, Jordan came back, and I love how they were still floating, because I feel like in other shows they would just show him already on the floor. But it does make me feel like, oh, since he floated to the ground when Jordan was himself again, does this mean Jordan might remember how to fly? Or are they gonna kind of do the Smallville thing where in Smallville, Tom Welling's Clark could, in theory, fly, but he just didn't for a long time. So I'm guessing, yeah, they're probably gonna... But then again, to go against my own point there, you know, Kryptonians on Krypton don't fly because, you know, it's Earth's sun that give them the abilities. So if Zeta-Rho learned it that fast because he only just went into the mind of a guy who could use, you know, his powers this way because they're on Earth, then Jordan should be able to. I mean, if you're thinking about it technically speaking. Alongside all of this, of course, catching up with Superman, he's being pursued by a bunch of Kryptonians. The Eradicator is still cooking up something special and terraforming in the XK cave. Luckily, Steel comes along, helps out Clark by knocking the other Kryptonian soldiers off of him. They go into space, or should I say Steel does, and he only has 8% left, then 6%. It's really getting crazy in this moment. I'm struggling to explain everything going alongside. Superman's going so fast that he's like burning up in the atmosphere because, yeah, he's just propelling so fast to Edge to hold him in place. And then, of course, we have Steel launching the hammer from space. Superman holds him in place. God, I'm starting to rhyme now. And then it hits him, blows the lid off the place, off the cave, shall we say. That was it. Edge was defeated. But what I really liked, and you know, the way they played it off is that Steel was ready to kind of sacrifice himself for this world. The way they kind of played it with the flashbacks to his daughter and everything like that, it was still a full circle for him, because even though he didn't save his Earth, and even though going to this Earth it didn't turn out the way he thought it would with Clark going evil, he still completed the mission. Like, he came to this Earth to try and save it so it wouldn't happen again, and he did do the one thing that eliminated the eradication of this Earth. Whereas, unfortunately, on his Earth, it did go through. This is the bit that also confused me as well. I don't know if this was, like, subject to the extra 2 episodes, and they had already maybe filmed this bit, but then when they got those extra 2 episodes, they were given a lot more scenes to flesh it out, but obviously, since they had already filmed this scene, maybe, I'm just speculating, by the way, it just still remained that way instead of just reshooting it, so it made maybe a little bit more sense. And what am I saying that maybe didn't make a little bit of sense is that we had Edge there, saying, all I wanted was a family, Cal. Superman says you had it, we were brothers. But it's like, wait, they literally have acknowledged that through absorbing and becoming the Eradicator and absorbing the solar flares and everything, like, it killed Morgan Edge. So I don't fully believe that, oh, it just happens to turn out after the Eradicator was bested that Edge's mind just came out with the other Kryptonian minds gone. Like, he's still there. No, I don't think so. Like, I mean, we've even had Superman scan him and there was nothing left. Like, they've made it very clear that Edge died. He sacrificed himself to be the Eradicator. So for this scene to be like, all I wanted was a family cow, it's like, wait, you're back? That's what I'm just, it's not that I don't like it. I like that Morgan Edge is still there, I suppose, but it just feels like, once again, they had 13 episodes, they probably filmed this original ending, and even though they got granted 2 more, they didn't want to change the ending, that they did a few things to flesh it out, but as a result, it kind of doesn't always line up if you haven't thought of every last little thing, and maybe this is one of those. But unless I'm missing something, I know some people will be like, but technically Edge, maybe, that, you know, they might have thought that he could have died, but he was still there, I suppose, but to me, it just doesn't feel like that. I absolutely loved the end of episode commentary from Superman. I mean, it's a very Superman thing to be on the news. I mean, it was coming from the Smallville Gazette, but he was just being very transparent with the people of Earth, I suppose, because everywhere else would have heard about this chaos going on in Smallville, I'm sure. At the end of the episode, we had a Cushing barbecue. The people of Smallville seem to have got over their beef with the Cushings. Jonathan was playing Injustice with his friends, and that's when Tegan walks in, and he gets the hots again for her, so he's just like a dog with his tongue hanging out. He just went straight to her. We didn't really get any more of that, but it's just still meant to tease that, oh, in season 2, like, they're going to still kind of be cooking that in the background. And I knew this would happen. I was talking about it a couple of episodes back, or was it last episode, but Lois brought the Gazette, or at least half of it. She says, let's build something here, a paper owned and operated by us, reporters who put the story first, no matter the consequences. I just kept thinking, like, Flash, follow in line with what Superman and Lois are doing if you want to give something good to Iris West, you know. John Henry Irons is still being offered a job, whereas, you know, we have General Lane stepping down. Obviously, that's, you know, kind of a full circle for his character arc this season, prioritizing what is important over what he has prioritized in his whole life to serve the country and the world, if you will, but now he wants to prioritize his family. Of course, we couldn't have a full circle of this season without a little scene with Jordan and Sarah, just confirming his love for her. I mean, some people may find this cheesy, and normally I would on paper, but I don't know, I'm a really big fan of these two, and I just find it really sweet, and I like how they just seem to be really happy with each other, you know? One of my other predictions that didn't come to fruition just yet, because I'm not ruling this out entirely, and you guys may remember, we had that moment in the Fortress of Solitude, and I loved, yeah, again, I really pay attention to the music. It was such a nice kind of reminiscing tone for Clark, and of wonder, and, you know, just everything that he looks back to, because this Superman has been around for a little while, even with the post-crisis changes, you know, allowing the boys to go from 1 baby to 2 boys to aged up boys. Just a public service announcement, Superman and Lois is not set in the future. Some people really do think that. I'm not saying you do right there, but someone in the back there does, and I've tried telling them, but either way, I thought that maybe with all of that stuff going on with Clark's mother, that maybe she would be the new crystal put into the cave, but that hasn't happened just yet. But in theory, that could still happen in the future. I thought it was quite nice how they buried him, and that may feel weird to some people, I think, but what I like about what they did in this iteration is that Jor-El seems to be, and also I thought Tyler Hoechlin's acting, by the way, with how he's choking up, very, very, very good. In this version, I see Jor-El, the AI version of him, he's not so, I feel like in the other versions of Superman, he can be kind of, it's not always actually the dad, even though it's meant to kind of be a like the mind of him, right? So he would act like him. But in this version, you can tell that he was a good dad, even if it wasn't actually him there in flesh and blood, where sometimes they play it a bit more stoic almost, and just a bit more distant from Clark. He's more of a mentor than a father, but in this version it seems that for all the times we haven't seen since before season 1, Jor-El was quite a good dad in the way the AI operated the mind of Jor-El. And guys, that ending when the pod was going, I was like, okay, what's going on here? Like, I really didn't expect this, and I thought it was talking about wholesome full circle scenes. This was something I actually didn't expect. I think it's so compelling for the character. He's lost everything and anything and just everything on his planet and his family, but then his daughter comes back. I thought that was such a good way to end it, because this is, as I just said, he has nothing left. You kind of, how could you not feel bad for a guy like that? But then for his daughter to come out the sky, that's just something else. I just felt so happy for the character. And the way, it didn't feel like a very artificial reunion as well. You could see it through the actors and the way they were just showing his sheer absolute foundation being broken through seeing his daughter again is a level of wholesome I just did not expect to feel at the end of this episode. But at the same time, this adds a little, it's not really a spanner in the works, but we're trying to obviously do the thing where Natalie noticed Lois, and Lois obviously lost a girl with Clark, the baby that they were going to have, and that did a massive number on her, psychologically speaking, because she was so looking forward to meeting that little girl when she came into the world, and she was going to be called Natalie. So even though this isn't her daughter, on that Earth, this girl, Natalie, is quite literally made up of Lois Lane's DNA. So when I was first thinking about it, I thought, oh, if they're going to do the whole thing, trying to get to know the daughter you never had, I was thinking maybe that might not be good. But then again, I was just thinking, no, not really. If they do try and have Lois trying to get to know her a little bit next season, it may come across weird at face value, because it's like, at the end of the day, that's not your daughter. But if she has your DNA, she may be more like you than what you realize, especially as this other Earth's Lois seemed to be very like our Lois, just the only difference being with John Henry Irons. So I feel like in a very human, real perspective of a story, you would want to get to know that person. How could you not? That's the finale, guys. So Superman and Lois, I feel like they knocked it out the park. Of course, nothing is perfect, but as far as looking at the overall, season and product, what a really good first season, and I feel like they definitely made fans fall in love with the show. They showed that Superman and Lois, or should I say, well, Superman and Lois can work on TV very well in a family-oriented kind of show that hasn't really been delved into before. I think on paper, before this show came out, that just didn't seem like a premise that was too interesting in people. But I feel like what the show did is completely subvert those expectations of the audience. I do want to say I will be continuing Superman and Lois videos, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because I will be doing updates in the off-season, maybe even little theory videos here and there, and maybe some video essay type things. And yeah, just let me know your thoughts on absolutely everything. So, like the video to help me feed that motherfucking algorithm on YouTube, subscribe, check out the top pinned comment where you have links to my Twitter and my Discord server where we can talk about Superman and Lois and the finale over some text chat, maybe even some voice chat. But guys, I'm gonna have to love you and leave you, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you fellow Kryptonians in the next video. Goodbye.